Oh look, another 270-degree aquarium PC case. Just what we needed. Hey guys, CJ here with Elevated Systems. For those of you who've been tuning in, you know I love to spotlight budget-friendly PC and tech items, especially PC cases. Despite bringing a variety to a saturated market, the last few years haven't seen much innovation. It seems every manufacturer is copying the popular style, vying to produce their take on the same design. Since Lee launched the PC-011 Dynamic in 2018, the panoramic or 270-degree glass enclosure style has dominated. Originally a dual chamber design, this concept has morphed into a more traditional single chamber case with a bottom PSU shroud, with the height Y40 being a prime example. Now multiple manufacturers are jockeying for a piece of the 270-degree full view market. The latest contender is Musetex with their K2 mid-tower case. Musetex has incorporated standout design features from some cases in the category, but does it offer any real value over its myriad of competitors? To find out, we'll dive into its specs, build quality, and our hands-on building experience. We'll also conduct thermal and noise level tests to thoroughly evaluate its performance and overall value. The Musetex K2 is a mid-tower ATX case measuring 421mm in length, 230mm in width, and 470mm in height. It supports mini ITX, micro ATX, and ATX motherboards. This case can fit graphics cards up to 420mm long, tower air coolers up to 178mm tall, and ATX power supplies up to 238mm. The Musetex K2 boasts 6 120mm ARGB fans. 2 side intake fans feature a reverse flow design, while 3 on top and 1 in the rear are standard 120mm fans. You can also swap the top 3 120mm fans for 2 140mm fans. Additionally, there are mounting points and included long screws to mount 3 fans below the graphics card on top of the PSU shroud. For liquid cooling enthusiasts, the top of the case can accommodate up to a 360mm radiator or AIO, and though not officially supported, you can side mount a 240mm AIO with the radiator in the front. Do note that this will reduce the maximum PCIe card length to just 290mm. Dust mitigation might be a concern as the case only has removable filters on the top and on the bottom under the PSU, with the main intake points on the side and bottom left filterless. You'll find 7 replaceable PCIe covers for horizontal PCIe device mounting and 3 for vertical configuration. Storage solutions are flexible with a removable drive sled at the base, accommodating 2 3.5-inch hard drives or a combination of 1 hard drive and 1 SSD, plus there are 2 mounting trays for 2.5-inch SSDs. The front I/O panel is equipped with a power button, a reset button, an up to 20 gigabit per second USB Type-C port, 2 5 gigabit per second USB Type-A ports, and separate headphone and microphone jacks. The Musetex K2 had an official launch price of $160 US, but is currently available for just $100 directly from Musetex, or $110 with a 15% coupon, bringing it to about $93 on Amazon. Prices and availability, of course, depend on your location. When examining the build quality materials of the Musetex K2, it's clear that Musetex aimed to balance quality with affordability. The case is primarily made from about 22 gauge steel, standard for sub $100 PC cases, and this is a sub $100 case with about $20 worth of fans in it. The structure is robust, the panels align well without any noticeable gaps or odd angles. I didn't experience any issues with the thumb screws or standoff stripping out during multiple assembly and disassembly cycles. In contrast to the slightly thinner steel, Musetex chose 4mm tempered glass for the front and side panels. This choice enhances the case's robustness and premium feel, as the glass is less likely to shatter. These are full-length tempered glass panels with the lower portion tinted black. The tolerance between the 2 glass panels is impressively tight, possibly the best I've seen in this style of case. However, some of this premium feel is undercut by the through-hole and thumbscrew mounting of the left panel, which to me cheapens the appearance and actually slightly weakens the glass. Now, of course, to truly assess a case, you need to build in it, which I did. Overall, the process went smoothly, but there are some important notes I should share. First off, this case is huge inside. It easily accommodates the tallest air coolers, the longest and widest graphics cards, and the biggest power supplies on the market. However, there are some considerations for certain builds. As mentioned in the specs and features overview, unlike some cases of this style, due to the recessed side fan mounting location, a 240mm radiator won't fit there. However, if you mount the fans in the recess and the radiator inside the case, it can fit. This configuration will cause the radiator to interfere with the graphics card, reducing the possible length to just 290mm. You can install a 360mm AIO on top of the case without it interfering with RAM or motherboard clearances. The case does support vertical mounting of a graphics card, but support is a bit of a misnomer here, as there isn't any physical support. While there are 3 vertical PCIe expansion slots, there isn't an included PCI riser, a not uncommon omission at this price point. Additionally, however, there's no appropriate hardware for a universal PCI riser, nor are there mounting points on the bottom of the case to secure a PCIe riser cable. So the only securing point for a vertically mounted graphics card is screwing the bracket onto the PCIe expansion slot, and then it just flops around inside the case. I wouldn't recommend this unless you are certain you will never move your PC once it's built. You're also restricted to graphics cards that are less than 130mm tall, or a CPU cooler less than 100mm for the card to actually fit. Not to mention, if you're using a thicker 3-slot card, there's very little room between the glass side panel for airflow. Another minor thing to note is that the included Musetex fans use a proprietary connector, but they are pre-wired into a splitter cable that terminates in a standard 4-pin PWM fan connector and a 3-pin ARGB connector. I was able to daisy chain these 2 separate ARGB connectors together and connect them to a single ARGB connector on the motherboard. Aside from these few points, I had no issues with assembly of my test system. There are adequate pass-throughs all around the motherboard. These are non-grommeted, which has been normal at this price point, but some budget-focused case manufacturers like Montech are starting to change that. Once everything was installed, cable management was simple, taking me about 5 minutes thanks to the ample room and included Velcro straps. With my test system installed and the case buttoned up, it was time to assess its thermal and noise performance. When comparing the temperatures inside the case to those of an open air test bench, the results were rather lackluster. Based on an average of 3 AIDA64 stress tests, the CPU's temperature inside the case increased by 1 degree. The motherboard temperature dropped by just 4 degrees despite having 3 top fans, and the GPU temperature rose by 5 degrees during a 20-minute Port Royal loop. Typically, in a case this large with 6 fans, we'd expect to see a drop in CPU temperature due to the brute force airflow. I'd usually only expect a degree or 2 increase in GPU temperatures, if any, and I typically see a 6 to 8 degree drop in VRM temperatures with just a single top fan installed in a case of this volume. I attempted to improve the airflow by moving one of the top fans to the bottom, but repeating the test yielded identical temperatures. Mounting more than a single fan down there would be pointless, as there's only a single small ventilation point below the drive cage to pull air in from. You'd essentially just be recirculating air in the case. Unfortunately, while Musetex included plenty of fans in this version of the case, these fans are essentially ineffective. Their maximum RPM is only around 1850, which delivers very little in terms of airflow. The substantial gap, not just between the blades, but also between the edge of the blades and the housing, is a clear indication they lack significant static pressure. In fact, at full RPM, they can barely push any air out of the case through the top mesh filter. This likely explains why Musetex didn't include a filter for the side intakes fans, essentially eliminating all dust mitigation. On the upside, due to the weak fans, the case remains relatively quiet, peaking at about 45.7 dBA under full load. I use a fairly quiet cooler and graphics card, but the dual thick tempered glass panels do a good job of insulating noise, particularly from the higher pitched fan noise from the graphics card. Overall, the Musetex K2 case is underwhelming. The areas where Musetex tried to differentiate themselves from the competition, such as the reverse flow fans and vertical graphics card mounting, fell flat. The reverse flow fans seem to serve more as decorative lighting than functional cooling elements, and the vertical graphics card mounting is poorly implemented. While this case might appeal to beginner PC builders on a tight budget looking for a trendy style and a pre-installed fan configuration, for most builders, it doesn't stand out in the crowded market. Additionally, Musetex's products offerings are confusing. The black version comes with 6 installed ARGB fans, while the white version includes only 3 non-LED fans at a lower price point. I think a version with no fans priced under $70 could potentially gain more traction. But that's just my take. What do you guys think of the K2? Did Musetex strike a good balance between style and function, or is the K2 just another case in a sea of lookalikes? Drop a comment with your thoughts, and as always, be sure to hit that like button and don't forget to subscribe for more tech reviews and DIY content, and I'll see you in the next one.